Hello everyone, my name is Daniel and I'm a programmer and an artist. And I got a bit of a random video today. The other day I received an email with a question about how to make something in geometry nodes, which I responded to, but I thought it was an interesting question and I thought I could make a video about it as well. So the question was about how you could have a grid and place a different object in each cell of that grid, but use a texture to determine which object went in the grid. So essentially, you draw a texture that's a map, and then somehow you select for each cell in a grid, based on the map, what object goes there. So we're going to cover how to do that today, and just to make it interesting, we'll also make it a hexagon grid. So let's get started with that. The first thing I want to do, just to keep everything simple, is we'll just build placing items in the grid cells. Then we'll go off and we'll build making hexagon grid, and then we'll put the two together and we'll place the objects in the hexagon grid. So to start with, if we're going to place different objects, we're going to want a collection. So we'll get a collection info in here and we'll connect that to our input. And we want to start with this letters collection. So if we look at that, it looks like this. We want to reset the children and we want separate children. Next, we want some points. So let's add a line with one vertex. So this is a single vertex. Then we're going to want to take our vertex here and we're going to want to duplicate it. Duplicate element, so we're going to duplicate the point. How many times do we want to duplicate the point? Well, that depends on our texture. We have this map here. So let's add a image info node and we'll connect this to the input. Then we can select our map and we want to figure out how many points we need to represent each pixel in the image. So to do that, we're going to multiply the width times the height, and that's the number of duplicates we need. Now, so that creates the correct number of vertices, but we want to array them in a grid. And to do that, we'll take the duplicate index and we want to convert it to XY coordinates. And I talked about how you do that in the video on indexes, but we want to do the index modulo. The width will give us the x coordinate. And then if we take the index and we divide it by the width, that will get us that'll make it so that however many items are in the width, when you get to the end of that, we'll get to 1. But we don't want any of the values in between, any of the decimal places, so we need to floor it. So that'll give us our y-axis. So then we could combine these, XYZ, combine XYZ, X, Y, and then we could take our instances and we could set the position. Wait, not our instances, we want our points that we duplicated, and we want to set the position to be offset by this vector, and that looks like this. You can see each vertex is in a grid. Let me make the world a little darker. So now we've got a grid. We want to put our instances on the grid, and we can do that by instance on points. Like so, we're going to do pick instance, and we can plug our instances into the instances, and now you can see it's using, I think, the index to determine which point to pick, but we want to use our image texture. So we take our image, we want to put that into a image texture node, like so. And we need to sample a pixel off of this. And to do that, we can use our XY coordinates. We probably want to set the sampling to closest. And then let's take this color value and we'll see if it equals something. And let's say if it equals red, we'll do a switch. You could do this multiple different ways. The way I recommended in the email to the guy was using like a grayscale image. You could just say, is the value greater than something, and then add the sum of those together and you get different indexes based on how bright the pixel was, basically. Or you could just take the grayscale value and multiply it times like the number of things that you had, and then name them like with a number before the name so that they were sorted in the collection to select the right one first. Anyway, for this, we're just going to switch an integer value, and we'll say it's 0 if it's not red. If it is red, we'll do 1. And then we could add to that another one, since we just have 3 things here. And we could say if the color is green, we'll add those together. So then if it's not, we'll output 2 if it's green, 1 if it's red, otherwise it's 0, and that's our 3 things. So then we can plug that into the instance index. Bring it over here. We could also set the epsilon, which is like how accurate this has to be, to something a little larger, like 0.1. Oh yeah, I forgot a step. So before we can use this location as a UV coordinate, we need to scale it so that it's in the 1 by 1 range. So we want to divide our XY coordinate by the width and height of the texture. So we need to combine XYZ, width, height, and then we divide our location, our coordinates, by the size of the texture, which means instead of going, in this case, like 1 to 12 for the X, it will go 1 to 0 to 1. And then we plug that in as our UV coordinate, and now you can see we have blue is A, red is B, and green is C. And that's the basics of how you would set that up, and it would be done. If you're doing it just a square grid, that would be it. But what if we wanted to make like a hexagon map like you would use in Catan or something? Well, you can convert a square grid into a hexagon grid by just having your axes, instead of going 90 degrees to each other, you could keep your x-axis the same, but then you have your y-axis go 60 degrees rotated instead of 90 degrees rotated. In our node group here, we'll just go somewhere else and we'll add a circle and connect that to the output. And we want our circle to have 6 sides. That makes it a hexagon. And then I'd rather have an edge perpendicular to the y-axis. So I'm going to just rotate this, or transform rather, and rotate it 30 degrees, which will make this edge parallel to the y-axis. So this is our hexagon. Now if we were to take this hexagon and make some duplicates of it, of the edges, and let's say 10 for now. Now if we're going to duplicate that hexagon a bunch of times, and we could make our coordinates with the index again, we could do modulo, divide, and floor, and we could say 3 for now. So that'll get us our XY coordinates like we did before, but we can't just combine them into XYZ because our Y-axis actually goes in a different direction. So we need to build the axis a little differently. So let's add a vector, and we'll just make it 1 on the X-axis. And then if we scale that by our modulo, and then make another one and scale it, we want to rotate the second one by 60 degrees, because that'll be the direction of our y-axis. So our x-axis for our hex grid is along Blender's x-axis, and then our y-axis is rotated 60 degrees and doesn't line up with the y-axis in Blender. So we want to do a rotate vector, and we want to rotate 60 degrees. Then if we add these two together, we should get, if we set the position here, and use that as the offset for our hexagons, then we should get a hexagon pattern. We need to scale it though. Scale it by 2. You can see now we have sort of a hex grid. However, there's a problem. The problem is that the 1 is the radius of our hexagon, but that's the distance from the center to this point. And we actually want to move it on the x-axis the distance from the center to this point. And that's known as the inner and outer radiuses of the hexagon. So this would be the outer radius, and this would be the inner radius. So how do you calculate what the inner radius of a hexagon is? And for that, I've prepared a little visual thing here. If you have a hexagon, it has an outer radius, and the outer radius is identical to the length of all of the edges of the hexagon. And the reason for that is you can think of a hexagon as 6 equilateral triangles. So this would be our outer radius, which is the same as the length of an edge of the hexagon. Instead of thinking of 6 equilateral triangles, we could just think of 1 of them, because they're all going to be the same. And if you have a triangle, a triangle has a height, like so, and we want to know what that is. So you could find that out by dividing one of the edges in half and then connecting that to the other corner. Now we know the length of two sides of this new right triangle that we made. They're 1 and 0.5 in this case. But whatever the length of the radius of the outer radius of our hexagon is, that's going to be the length of one of the edges, and half of that will be the length of the other edge. Now that we know that, we can just use the Pythagorean theorem to solve what the length of this yellow edge would be. And that's a squared plus b squared equals c squared. We want to solve for b in this case, because we know that c is 1 and a is 0.5. I mean, a and b could be either, I guess. So we could do c squared minus a squared equals b squared, and then we could say the square root of c squared minus a squared is b squared. That would get us the length. However, we can actually simplify it even further because there's a ratio between the length of this long edge and the length of the yellow edge. And that ratio is the same no matter what size the hexagon is. And we could figure out what that ratio value is by calculating this on a triangle whose edges are all of length 1. And so this is what we're calculating, by the way. And you can change the radius and you get different results. But the ratio between them stays the same. So you can see this white circle is the outer radius, this red circle is the inner radius, and then that lands on the hexagon at the center of the edges and at the points. So if we replace the unknown values in that equation with 1 and 0.5, because if we know that the outer radius of our hexagon is 1, then the length of this short edge here has to be 0.5. We can then actually calculate what the squares of those are. So the square of 1 is 1, and the square of 0.5 is 0.25. That gets us this. And then we can simplify that. We can say that b squared equals 0.75, or b equals the square root of 0.75. That's the value, that's the ratio between the length of the outer radius and the inner radius. So if we multiply the outer radius times that number, it'll give us the result of the inner radius. So how do you find the inner radius of a hexagon? You multiply the outer radius times the square root of 0.75. So let's go back over here to our hexagons thing, and we will try to do that. So we'll take our circle here. Let's expose this radius value to the input, and then we'll multiply this times square root of 0.75, and we'll plug that value. We actually need to multiply that times 2 because we want to know the distance to the edge and then to the center of the next hexagon, so it's twice the inner radius. So we'll multiply this again times 2, and then we will scale our vector by that and plug it in here and get rid of this scale. And there we go. Now we have our hexagons all placed correctly. However, we have another problem, which is that our axes for laying out our coordinates, which are along the x-axis and 60 degrees like this, make a grid that's diamond shaped, and I'd rather have it be more rectangular. And we can do that by by offsetting every 2 rows, so these, backwards 1 on the x-axis. So let's calculate a value to do that. So we'll take our y-axis here, and we will divide it by 2. That will get us 0.51, and then if we floor that, we'll have 0, 0, 1, 1, etc. And then we could subtract that from our x-axis here. Put this over here and use that instead. And now everything's shifted over. If I make more hexagons, and we made this like 5 and something, you can see we get sort of an almost rectangular grid of hexagons. All right, so now that we have this hexagon grid thing working, let's take it and replace our layout, our square layout up here with this new hexagon one. So to do that, we will take we'll get rid of this, and all of this. like so. And let's just bring this over here. And it's going to replace what we have right here. So if we move this so we have a little more room. So this is our radius calculation for the inner radius of the hexagon. Then we calculate our axes. So we have the x-axis, and when we rotate it for the y-axis. So here we have x and y, and we want to add those together, and that's going to replace this combine xyz node for the square one. So we'll get rid of that and plug this add into here. So then we need to know the coordinates. So we have our x coordinate here, and we have our y coordinate here. Now if we look at this, we can see we have our diamond shaped again. So let's divide this by 2 so that our rows count 0.51. And then if we floor that, we have 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 2. We will do x subtract that and use that as our new x coordinate, which makes everything square again. And then we actually still do want our combine xyz with just the original inputs here, because we want to plug that for our uv coordinate to keep that the same. So there we got that. And then the locations of the points are calculated using the scaled x-axis and rotated 60 degrees y-axis. All right, and then I think we're actually done. So instead of using our letters collection, we can use our map tiles, and that gets us this result like so. If we wanted it to look a little nicer, we could actually rotate each of these randomly. So we could put this into a rotate combine xyz, and we want z to be a random value. Let's do an integer. We want it between 0 and 6, and we want to multiply that times 2 radians of 60 degrees, and we'll plug that into our z. So now each tile is rotated a random orientation. And then what's pretty cool about this is we can actually draw on this map. So we could paint some red over here, changes. We could put some blue here. Green's actually the water, which is kind of weird, but we could draw, make a little map. So anyway, I know that was kind of a random video. It doesn't really relate to a lot of what I've been working on, but like I said, there was a question someone asked, and I thought it was an interesting question, so I might as well cover it in a video. Plus, it's been a while since I've done one of these videos where I built the node tree live and sort of explained my thought process as I was doing it, and it seems like a lot of you enjoy when I do that kind of video, so I thought I would make another one. Anyway, hopefully it was interesting. Hopefully you learned something. If you did, let me know in the comments. And that's all I got for this one. Thanks for watching.